the asymmetric version, because with the inboard sidewalks on the library side, we feel there's enough room there to make a nice big wide sidewalk on the post office side. We want it simple and sustainable, not clever ideas like that grist mill in Hilburn, just using classical materials. We love the gateway, keep the gateway like you've seen up on Route 17 already, stones, a big massive stone pillar, not pretty little hanging flower baskets, something that needs watering and is not sustainable. Same with, later on with trees, once they're established, instead of lots of flowers and things that need watering and that could look great one day, then terrible the next. Keep it simple and sustainable. We love the pedestrian donut kind of loop that you can walk around that connects to the parkings that is very visible, where you can think, oh, I'm driving along, I can park right here. So the signage for parking is very good, and it connects to the parking at Powerhouse Park. We love the pocket parks idea. We love the shared pedestrian area on Store Road, Park Avenue. We're from the park, most of the people in this group, and we're in favor of losing the extra slip entrance to the park. If we have a road diet from 4 to 3, and the central road is an area you go to turn left or to turn right, then if there is backup with the moms taking their kids to school, that's a safe place for the cars to wait. So if there's a traffic like that, if the Department of Transport. So we're in favor of that. I think that was it, yeah? Thank you.
You guys want to go?
Yeah, go.
We'll go with this table right here next.
All right, so basically, we were also a very supportive and enthusiastic group towards the project. We also favor the asymmetrical landscaping, so we're right on board with you. We think that'll be a really good visual with landscaping and furniture and lighting. We just thought that would be a better option. The one concern we had was traffic, but we've kind of talked through it, and about Fridays and Sundays and the Renaissance Festival. But we really kind of discussed it and thought that, all right, people going up to the Catskills may not go through 17. They may just go on the thruway. So we were okay with that. What's that?
They don't.
But if we make it harder, for them,
Then they might.
less lanes, they'll do it. We think the biggest challenge is parking. We discussed that at length. We also thought about Powerhouse Park would be a great opportunity. We loved the gateway. We envision farmers markets. We envision art fairs, concerts. So that we thought would be a fabulous time. I know that Kathy said that she did a fair at Powerhouse Park and nobody knew where it was. It just wasn't visible. So we were very enthusiastic about this. Is there anything else that we highlighted?
You like the right business.
Well, the right businesses, and we just think we have to be cognizant of that when we discuss parking and
The shared road.
the shared
Yeah, we
road.
did like
Oh,
that.
the shared road, the one thing that was noted was that it is sometimes used as an overflow for the library. So that's something that should be considered. Right. All right.
Thank you.
Table here, we got something else here.
Somebody here want to do it outside of me?
You can.
Great. Well, I think the biggest concern here was the parking and the shared roads, right? So the parking is a question, and one of the things I think that kept coming up was, if you build it, they will come feeling. But to think that we're going to add parking and try to bring in retail, or we're going to put in retail to bring in parking, it has to work concordantly to get this thing done correctly. These guys, they were all concerned with, so parts of the things with parking were, an idea came up was to use part of the existing train parking lot to kind of separate. So they had the gateway thing going into Tuxedo Park, and it was an idea to shrink that a little because that's kind of far off the end. Keep the roadway and everything, change the roadway, the slip road, but to have the near the train station, possibly more green space, more of a place for people to hang out. You're right by the train station, you're right there across the street from stores. It's a pretty well located spot. So that tended to be a thought they had here. They talked about.
Is that in the area where, like, rather than park?
So if you look, real quick here, yes. So here's your train station. So they talk in here or in here, and then possibly cutting this back some, maybe, do some not as big, but have some more green space on either side here where people could hang out and be part of it. The idea, of course, it kept going all the way back to safe sidewalks, slow the traffic. I think the changing to 3 lanes is always, everybody kind of grimaces when they first hear it. But I think after you think about it for a little while and see, it actually, if you live in the town, 3 lanes is nice. If you're traveling through the town, it's not as much fun. But to live here, we need that. People do not stop at the traffic lights in Tuxedo. They fly through them. We need a way to control the traffic. I think that was a sentiment of everybody here, is slow them down. Take the 18-wheelers off our small road here and turn this back into something. Listen, Warwick is a little town, and they have 2 lanes there. We could turn this highway into that type of a feel instead of having it so clogged up as it is. They like the Van Zant modification, the shared road concern. The shared road concern was, and it's the same thing I've had on it, is it's a great idea to be back there, but if you've ever taken a walk back there, it's a cornucopia of dumpsters, wash buckets, and HVAC units. And it's therefore, what are we attracting people to go back there for that they couldn't do that in front? So that's a great idea to have back there, but maybe we need some doorways from the back of some of the restaurants, not necessarily a front, but a door. Yeah, make it inviting. But there has to be an incentive for a retail person to do that, right? If you just go to somebody and say, you gotta get your HVAC unit and your dumpsters and get them out of it, well, where are they gonna go? They could put them in Mike's driveway, but he wouldn't be happy with it.
The bear likes the one that's there, it's full of fish.
So I think that was basically the sentiments. Am I correct in what I was saying? I think in general, everybody likes it. The concern, I think, also is time frame, funding, financing, and where we're going and who we are all together as this group of, the question is, does this group of people stay together to the day of the ribbon cutting? Or does it slowly drop off, or does it grow? So we need this, we need people involved, and I think that was the sentiment of what goes on.
I'd like to ask for one clarification before we go to the next table, and that is about parking. Is there a concern about not enough parking?
It was retail parking. They were talking about, like, in the train station or wherever we were gonna do this, would be to have metered retail type, or not necessarily metered, but could be, but retail parking, like 2-hour parking, where we're not, that whole thing is like people park for the train station, and we have the whole parking lot down by the power park, right? So we have both of these, and if you go there during the day, it's all commuters all parked along here. So we're talking like,
Take up the space, it doesn't.
we take up the space. So if we want retail people
Retail
to,
parking, not commuter parking.
yeah, up in that area.
So we need
I
a
heard-
parking plan.
I heard-
Yeah, we need,
Yeah.
we need both.
That's it.
Thank you.
Good job.
But then you don't, oh, okay. Okay, so our group agrees with the asymmetrical road diet with the promenade on the eastern side. We were thinking about relocating the gateway to south of Steve's Pizza. So it captures Steve's Pizza and the school as you're coming into town, if that's possible. And then as you're going, and then I'll switch around, and then if you're coming south, the feeling was that the Tuxedo Park entryway, as it is now with the entrances, is more historical and sort of a formal entrance to Tuxedo Park. So we'd like to explore to see if it is registered as a historical place, and maybe a compromise would be to have the slip lane that exits the park be one way and exit only. And then you would, if the MTA does go ahead with the cross light at East Village Road to then you would turn left to get into the park that way, but you could have a slip lane going south, but only one way. Then we liked the idea of Van Zant Park and the plaza in front of the train station. We feel that a signalized crosswalk like they have down in Sloatsburg, connecting those two areas would be very good. It would create a continuum from, Powerhouse Park through Antonelli Park, through the train station, and then both sides of Route 17 would be a nice continuum. We looked at finding a balance between parking for cars and parks for people. We like the idea also about more green space around the train station building itself. We were thinking instead of on either side of the train station, on the south side, so it's sort of across from Tuxedo, Tuxedo Square, and then keeping the parking just north of the train station building. And the possible pocket park south of the post office, we realized that there are challenges with finding ways to enter that from Route 17. And the post office doesn't want us to enter it from behind the post office building. So we're thinking that maybe we just have it be only for parking for employees along the railroad, and then the rest of it between that where they would park and Route 17 would be a park. So pocket park with benches and trees. The parking lots connected between the old IGA and Reggie Bar, they're owned by two different people, obviously, but if we could work out something that those two parking lots could be combined and better designed for more flow and more parking spaces. And we like the shared road because it's, we could have big improvements for minimal work. And then the final thing we came up with is that some sacrifices are worthwhile and we'll get used to changes.
Moving the utility.
What?
Moving the utilities.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I forgot. This is a dream concept, but if we could move the utilities from along Route 17 to maybe, one thing to look at would be along Park Ave and Store Road.
And then.
And trees.
And then trees along
Yeah.
Route 17. Yes. Okay.
Oh,
Is that you?
Yeah, yes, I'm gonna get my notes.
Okay. Well, let me give you your,
Feel free to jump in, Grant.
you need this. so
Okay.
They'll hear you on the recording.
So our group believed that a road diet was an essential part and a component in order to move forward with this plan. So that was basically where we started. We basically, not we, I didn't vote, they did. They liked the symmetrical road diet. They liked it because it showed balance. They thought it would be unfair to some of the people on the western side who didn't have enough pedestrian walkway, that they would be cheated out of getting a lot of the pedestrian traffic. So they liked the symmetrical look. Let's see, yes, that's it. They really liked the inboarding of the sidewalks, but they were concerned that it would be a delay because we have to work with all the private property owners. So they thought that maybe we should put that aside because it may slow this process down. And one of the things that did come up in many of the meetings is, when can we get this done? We're really getting tired. Let's just keep moving forward. And, so obstacles were pointed out as we went through our conversations, which I'll point them out. So even though they were good ideas, there was a concern that we were having too many priorities and trying to do too many things. Is that fair? Okay. Next was the gateway. They believed that the gateway concept was a really nice complement to the traffic light the MTA is going to be putting in. So they really liked that concept. They liked the idea of coming in to a park. Let's see. Yeah, 8 people out of 8 people liked it. They also thought that the solution, which we call Antonelli Park, the one on the other side, was really an easy fix, and it should be something that should be explored right away. It also offered some solutions for some of the parking. So parking did come up. Parking solutions is a problem that has to be flushed out as we move forward. And they believed that some of the concepts brought up for Antonelli Park really fit the criteria of the things that we really want in our entire beautification process. Next is the shared road. They thought it was basically a no-brainer because it's very inexpensive, but they thought that, what did you guys say? I can't remember here. All right. They said it was really, some people thought it was underutilized and other people didn't feel it was. So there was a concern as to how is it going to be designed, and when people say it's a shared road, what does that mean? And so if you have a road that you can go on a street, a car, plus pedestrian, plus bike, that would be of interest. But the concern was that, again, is this a priority because we're going to have sidewalks going along Route 17? Are we trying to build too many pedestrian accesses for pedestrian safety, et cetera? So that was a concern. So the thought was this probably would be a low priority, yet easy to do. And then finally, public space. They felt that Van Zant wasn't that big of a space, so it's not going to make a big statement. So the thought was they'd really rather see the public access and activity be expanded for Powerhouse Park. And basically, because the gateway could serve for a lot of the purposes that Van Zant is described to do. So the answer was, from my group, was let's move all of those benefits to the priorities at Powerhouse Park. So that was that one. And I think that was where we were, right? Right. Anybody think I missed anything? Okay.
What did you think about the split way to the park?
They loved the gateway, and they thought that just having one road down to the light was safe and fun.
Great, so I'll report back for the group in the conference room. Starting with the road diet, generally seemed supportive of the road diet, understanding that there may be traffic impacts that would need to be looked at. Relative to the way the road diet could be implemented, one idea that came about was actually adding on-street parking as a way of calming traffic and providing a buffer in between the pedestrians and moving traffic. Kind of similar along those lines, looking at the inboard sidewalks, was the idea of moving pedestrians further away from the 17 corridor, making it feel safer, having more of a buffer space between pedestrians to make it more of an environment where people want to be. And that was a big theme that came out in our discussions, was really focusing on people, getting people that want to come to the area, and creating a destination. That way, businesses would be interested in coming to the destination. There was a lot of discussion as to what types of businesses we would want to attract and how these improvements would make it so that people would want to come and spend time in the area. One thing that was said was the benefits of being able to see how things played in Sloatsburg with their road diet, and being able to learn some of the lessons from there. And then also along those lines, getting return on investment, being able to identify places that have been successful in doing streetscape improvements and, revitalization master plans, and then get that return on investment. That tied into gateways, ideas of having wayfinding and, features on the street that clearly articulate where you are, where you want to be. That also tied into parking a bit. People need to know where the parking is so that they can come and they can park easily. Relative to the shared street, that also kind of tied back into the discussion of the sidewalk is, moving activity further away from Route 17 could be more enjoyable, not being up against the traffic. We talked a bit about previous proposals for activating that space. And one of the things that came out was communication and how important the process is to make sure that, things are being communicated clearly, that people get to provide their input, and that they're not surprised when these proposals come up. And then lastly, I think would be public space. When we talked about public space, we were thinking of it in terms of, activities and types of events that could, again, create destinations where people want to come. There was a lot of support for having the shared space on Van Zant. I think, similarly, having some other shared spaces. I really like the idea of a sports complex type of event space. And then, I think Powerhouse Park was mentioned, and if there could be paths that connect both of those, you could have simultaneous events going on in the town, which really could generate activity, and then have paths to connect them so that people can be flowing through them and really kind of have that permeable space. So those are kind of some of the highlights. Anyone in our group can feel free to chime in if there's anything I missed.
I just think we should be clear that the one way to get the retail is inside doing all this, not just build it, they will come, have events, right? So vintage markets, free concerts, venue shows, low, it's low, that's what.
Yep.
I think that attract that you like younger people.
But that's a separate, that's a totally separate subject. Again, this is multi-faceted. In order to revitalize a hamlet, you have to have multiple concepts. So you have to have a parking plan, you have to have an infrastructure plan, you have to have an event plan, you have to have a marketing plan to bring in the proper people. So this particular event, this particular forum is about the infrastructure. And you're absolutely right, we need events, and the board is actually working on that. Parking, you're absolutely right, the board is working on that. An economic development plan, you're absolutely right, and the board is working on that. So we need right now to figure out for each individual component the best way forward. So we want to stay focused on this, and then we will address each other subject at other forums, because we absolutely need to have public interaction. So. I have to just tell you that next week, at the next town board meeting, we will have the results of our economic study for the corridor. So that will begin the next process for economic development. Okay, sorry.
Final comment, sign-in sheet, where is it? Anybody not sign in? We got one over here, good. Any final closing remarks here?
Oh, I think I did.
You get it.